How often did you hear like those sounds growing up?
Oh, often.
What happens to communities ravaged by the U.S.'s failed drug policy when the government decides taxing weed is lucrative?
Cannabis as a business is very sterile, and a lot of the people running the businesses aren't necessarily in community with cannabis.
In only Illinois' second year of legalized recreational marijuana, pot sales blossomed to more than $1 billion. That bag was exponentially bigger than the first year's.
Everybody that lives in these areas that have been disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs are humans that actually deserve an opportunity to change the trajectory of their lives.
The state promised to bolster fairness in the industry with a program earmarking discounted licenses for communities historically devastated by the war on drugs. But many say the green isn't making its way into the black.
Do you think that the way that the state has handled the licenses and kind of how the bill is written, do you think they executed that well?
I don't think the state really handles anything well, honestly.
This has become a legal battlefield.
4,518 applications for what was originally going to be 75 licenses. 99% of people weren't going to get them.
Because of its federal illegality, you're not able to accept credit cards, and so most of it is cash specific.
The buzz about state licenses, lotteries, and legalization is at the core of Illinois' budding marijuana business. Another central issue is why it's so difficult for seed money to bloom into a flowering business.
Can it be equitable?
In the United States of America?
That's where we're doing this interview, so yes. As a kid growing up here, could you have imagined that the cannabis industry is one that you'd be getting into?
Absolutely not. But it's cool.
I'm walking with Belisha Royster in zip code 60649, a part of Chicago's South Shore neighborhood. This is where she grew up. It's also one of the areas Illinois acknowledges was disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs.
I remember seeing the change in this community in the area and how the businesses shifted, how the climate shifted when drugs started plaguing the community.
How many people did you know that got caught up in the criminal justice system because of weed?
Several. Too many to even put a place a number on, really, several. It was nothing to be smoking in the park and just smoking it, not even selling it, and get in trouble for weed.
Nationally, law enforcement used marijuana offenses as a significant part of the decades-long drug war. Authorities arrested Black people for selling and possessing drugs at higher rates, even though white people used drugs at the same rate and were more likely to sell them.
How many people in your family have been criminalized because of marijuana?
Quite a few. I'd say a handful. My brother for sure, that's, and a couple cousins that just have a history of drug cases and weed cases.
Belisha is trying to secure a license to sell the very product that landed her brother in prison, marijuana. Belisha wants to win one of the social equity licenses Illinois designated specifically for people from communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. It's supposed to be the state's attempt to grow Black and brown ownership in the exceptionally white weed industry.
So why would you want to get into the cannabis industry after having so many tense interactions around the criminalization of marijuana?
Because this belongs to us, period. This industry is built on our backs once again. We were the ones arrested for it. We were the ones distributing it. We were the ones that created mastermind enterprises illegally, or the legacy industry is because of us. The current clientele is because of the customer base that we built in the streets across this country.
Illinois legalized recreational marijuana on January 1st, 2020, 6 years after doing so for medical cannabis. And yet, it ranks third among states with the largest increases for racial disparities in marijuana possession arrests. Law enforcement arrested 3 times the number of Black people for marijuana-related offenses in Chicago's first year of so-called legalized weed. And through a Freedom of Information Act request, I discovered 25 of those were here in zip code 60649.
In your opinion, is the social equity program as it's set up now in the state of Illinois set up to help communities like this one that you grew up in?
No, not right now.
Why do you say that?
It's not robust enough, and it's not transparent enough, and it's the same old thing.
Ironically, the state's entire program locks out anyone receiving federal funding, like those living in subsidized housing or receiving food assistance, because nationally, marijuana is illegal.
Government is hard. Starting up new businesses is hard. Starting up a new restaurant is hard, much less a highly regulated, also federally illegal business.
Toy Hutchinson is a former state senator and the former cannabis czar who helped craft Illinois' recreational marijuana policy. And she's heard the criticism about it.
And it was the most comprehensive approach that anyone had ever taken, especially legislatively. It just had never been done before. I don't know how to solve for 90 years of criminal justice reform that needs to be undone and dismantled. And I definitely don't know how to do that all in one bill.
Illinois was the first state to tie its social equity program to the legalization of adult-use cannabis. Toy says lawmakers specifically crafted the legislation to be, quote, race neutral. As in, even though their goal was to provide opportunities for Black and brown people, their bill would not use race as a criterion.
Could this race-neutral criteria actually target the populations of people that we wanted so that we could protect it in the courts and also get people into this new industry? And by all indicators, it's looking like that's exactly what it's going to do. You know, there were some unintended consequences.
In 2021, Illinois used a points-based evaluation for its recreational cannabis licenses. It allocated a limited number of licenses per region. Chicago had 47. The first step to securing a license was getting into the lottery. The number of points earned on an application determined eligibility. Categories had defined values. Social equity was worth 50 points, knowledge and experience, 30. And there were 5 points for U.S. veteran status. The maximum number of points you could earn was 250. And it turns out those veterans' points carried more weight than many realized.
And that was part of the legislative negotiative process. We had people who would not vote for this unless we added a veteran's point. We really didn't think that that was going to be the one that flipped it. There was no way to know what was going to happen as a result of that.
The result was the state awarded the 21 groups with perfect scores the 75 licenses available.
Because no one realized that you had to be perfect to run a weed shop.
How many points did you get on your application?
I received a 243 on my family application and a 245 on another.
250 is the maximum amount of points you can get.
Correct.
Why don't you have a license?
I'm not a veteran, and I wasn't connected enough. Ultimately, they gave us social equity and then turned it around and made it into a veterans program, which completely superseded the original intent.
Belisha is part of a series of lawsuits combined into a supersuit, alleging veterans points created an unconstitutional special class, locking out applicants like her. It's left licensees and applications in limbo.
Like, I'm so smart that I am in college right now.
I believe it.
These twin girls who challenge me to all types of contests
I can go lower than that.
Oh, you want me to go? Okay.
are a large reason Belisha wants her license. It's about building financial equity for her children. Already, she says, she spent $10,000 trying to get a license and hopes she won't have to spend too much more.
Nobody should have to spend their life savings on expensive lottery tickets and consulting fees just to be turned away and left even more harmed than they were before. We should have the opportunity to have equal opportunities. And this industry is America's way to make that right for what we've done for this country for free.
Why is it making you emotional?
I'm passionate about this. My grandmother and my father have picked cotton in their lifetime. This is in my blood to feel passionate about this. You know, it's also in my blood to want the best for my people because I know we deserve it.
Illinois shields applicants to government programs, which means you don't get to know who applied for those social equity licenses. If you roll around Chicago looking for weed, you'll notice the obvious. The distribution of dispensaries is unequal.
I am on my way to Mission Dispensary, which is the only dispensary on the south side of Chicago.
So I want to take you through what a process would be. You said this is your first time at a dispensary.
This is my first time. I have never done this.
Mission is only minutes away from Belisha's childhood home. Gabe Mendoza is walking me through the business of buzz when he says relies on recreational cannabis.
You know, we went from seeing 100 people a day to 600 people a day in the span of literally from December 31st to January 1st.
Would Mission have survived without the recreational use of marijuana?
No, we would not have. I mean, frankly, we were operating here at a loss before.
Mission got the green light when Illinois cleared medical marijuana. The business began as Black-owned, but an out-of-state business purchased it before it opened.
Yeah, that's the one I was about to say. Yeah, it is? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
As of 2021, there are no majority Black-owned dispensaries in Chicago, and Mission's backstory illustrates the tension felt by communities worried big weed will push them out before they even have a chance to extract any opportunities. Gabe is the only employee left from the original group.
Yeah, without the money coming in, we would not have been able to stay open. The doors wouldn't have been able to be open. We hadn't even opened our doors for sales yet, and we had already run out of the money that we had allocated, and we would have eventually been forced to close.
You're saying without their money, the south side wouldn't have a dispensary?
There would be no dispensary on the south side.
The south side is filled with communities ravaged by the war on drugs, and so the lack of marijuana dispensaries here is glaring.
What is Mission doing to give back to the community, which basically has allowed it to thrive?
We will have donation drives that we've been able to raise tens of thousands of dollars for local food banks, local shelters, LGBTQ communities, veterans, single fathers.
This place, which Gabe says does $25,000 to $60,000 in sales daily, has bright lighting and a transactional feel drastically different from a home on the north side of town, where a woman is eager to showcase what she thinks cannabis culture should be.
I don't even remember who made this song.
Yo, this one, I was reading that out. I get so weak in the knees, I can hardly speak.
Cannabis business is a business. They're selling a product to you. And what I'm interested in is selling an experience to you. Like, I want it to be fun. When you walk inside, I want it to feel good.
I'm at a game night uptown in a room full of cannabis enthusiasts, and I'm not winning.
It is the opposite.
Time.
Oh, dang.
Brittany Black Rose Capri is letting me sit in on the weekly ritual she holds at her home. It's smoking, joking.
I got you smashing these McDonald's in 4K.
And this is the vibe and the type of consumer she envisions for her future dispensary.
I just want something fun. I want something that feels good, that is good, that cares about people, and they don't have to fear or be worried about being criminalized in the process.
Remember the 21 perfect cannabis applications I mentioned earlier? Brittany's was one of them.
Proud of her.
Yeah.
Why is it dope? Why are you proud of her?
Because she deserves it.
Yeah, she's a very driven person who's working hard to run a business.
What is your relationship with marijuana?
As my best friend.
As in, that's my best friend. She a real got her own car. Like, what kind of best friend?
No, I use cannabis as pain management as well as social occasions.
Brittany loves weed almost as much as she loves Chicago. She's adorned her body with at least 6 tattoos dedicated to her city. The ongoing litigation against the state is preventing her from opening her business.
A lot of people are going to think that the lawsuits are from people who are like bitter that they didn't make it, and some of that can be true, right? But a lot of it is a lot of social equity applicants who did not get their due diligence and are fighting for a life-changing opportunity. I don't want the narrative to be just because this thing is stopping me, who is a social equity applicant, right? That it is inherently a terrible thing, because that's not necessarily what it is. I would love to have my license, but the lottery process from start to finish has not been handled effectively.
Awardees can sell their highly coveted licenses to other businesses, bigger businesses, who can pay a lot. And when the license is transferred, the buyer has no obligation to adhere to any social equity.
How did you feel that when you were announced as one of the social equity license awardees, that people immediately began calling you to buy that license?
I was overwhelmed with how quickly people moved. I was prepared that people were going to be trying to buy licenses. I just wasn't expecting people to like find my phone number. But people started calling my house and sending stuff to my house.
Critics have said the fact that those social equity licenses are able to be sold means that the industry could very easily continue to be white, continue to leave out the communities which helped make it a success in the first place.
I think if a social equity applicant sells, I don't think anything's wrong with that, because the alternative is taking a very large financial risk. You have to then maneuver and navigate all the intricacies of owning a business that is not federally legal. There are only so many places that will allow you to sell. Whole communities don't want you there. Whole landlords don't want you there. If you've been struggling your whole life and somebody was willing to give you $3 million and you don't want to take the risk and you want to live comfortably, I understand.
Brittany easily admits the reason she was able to win a license and navigate owning and operating a dispensary is because her lawyer father, who founded a cannabis consulting team, spent years doing work in the space. With a head start like this, and thousands needed to even get started, I have a question about Illinois' process.
Can it be equitable?
In the United States of America?
That's where we're doing this interview, so yes.
There was no equity in this because it costs so much to apply in the first place. Like, people who are disproportionately affected by the war on drugs, people who were, like, arrested for weed, when they come out, they can't get jobs. How the hell are you supposed to be able to just drop $50,000 on a hope?
I'm walking around a Cannabis Expo surrounded by people with hope. They hope for partnerships, connections, and some, like Craig Cecil, hope for jobs in the industry that landed him in prison for 19 years until President Donald Trump commuted his life sentence.
I've invested more in that industry than anybody. In 19 years of my life, I lost everything I had. Even my son died as a result of my incarceration. But now I've come out of prison basically as unemployable. So what I'm doing is I'm asking for the whole cannabis industry as a whole to help me recoup my investment in the industry by hiring me, by working me, by providing me employment in the industry.
Oh, so this is a job fair for you?
Yes. If you notice, my title is Unemployed Marijuana Prisoner.
Craig, who has been out of prison less than a year, is from Garfield Park, an area disproportionately affected by the drug war. He claims he built the illicit weed industry, but unlike many in Belicia's community, Craig actually may get the chance to re-enter it legally.
I would love to open a marijuana grow operation in that area that only hires from within a 4-block radius of that grow operation.
Craig says he hasn't seen the social equity so often discussed in these spaces. Here, a few booths focus on it. The organization Belisha founded 3 years ago is one of them.
I'm a registered lobbyist, so we do a lot of advocacy work. We're doing a lot of...
Belisha, who maintains a full-time job, spends hours at the event on a weekend. Watching her here and hearing all this talk of equity reminds me of the earlier conversation we had touring her childhood neighborhood.
In an ideal world, what would you want for yourself in this cannabis space?
A viable business where I can create generational wealth. And I also want licenses for Black people in this space. I ultimately would want to see Black millionaires as a result of this.
What are you doing today?
Today we are traveling around Chicago, going to your mother's childhood home, and we're talking to her about her work.
Oh.